Light from the grand chandelier caught the face of his new Patek Philippe, a tiny, brilliant sun reflecting in the polished steel. Xander raised his champagne flute. It's just business, you have to understand. The venture needed a singular vision, and frankly, you were holding it back with all your caution. The clink of his glass against mine was the only sound I could hear over the blood rushing in my ears. The entire board, our first major investors, all sat there, watching me. I understand more than you know, I said, my voice unnaturally steady. Our partnership was born in the fluorescent hum of a university library basement during a 24-hour hackathon. We were two broke kids fueled by lukewarm coffee and a shared, frantic energy. Xander was the showman, the one who could sell an idea sketched on a napkin. I was the architect, the one who could actually build it. Remember one night, 3 months in, sprawled on the floor of our tiny first office, laughing over cold pizza as we mapped out version 2 on a whiteboard. That night felt infinite. The first red flag was a tiny thing, a tremor I dismissed. During a pitch to a small angel investor, he used the word I to describe the core algorithm I had spent 400 consecutive hours coding. He's just the face of the company, I told myself. It's what he does. Golden period lasted 18 months. We landed our Series A funding in the spring of 22, and suddenly our world transformed from instant ramen to celebratory dinners at Gramercy Tavern. I managed the development team, the product roadmap, the endless bug fix sprints. Xander managed the narrative. He was a master of it, weaving our story for tech blogs and conference stages. The imbalance grew slowly. I gave the company my nights. He gave it his expense account. He'd fly first class to court a client in Zurich, while I was paying for the team's late-night Ubers on my personal AMX, waiting for reimbursement. I rationalized it all. Need the buzz. He's building the brand. The first crack in my carefully constructed denial came not as a roar, but as a whisper. A misdirected email from our cloud services vendor, sent to me by mistake. It was an invoice confirmation for a premium server package I'd never proved, billed not to our company, but to something called Orion Innovations LLC. A quick search showed Orion was a holding company registered 3 months prior. The address was a private mailbox 6 blocks from Xander's luxury condo. The email was an accident. The company was not. That's when the quiet investigation began. Over the next 7 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was the diligent co-founder, hitting my deadlines. By night, I became a forensic accountant. I hired a discreet attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Ms. Vance, who recommended a digital investigator, Mr. Sterling. The initial $25,000 retainer for them felt like the first real breath of air I'd taken in years. I started cross-referencing Xander's expense reports with his Instagram posts. The investor retreat in Aspen matched perfectly with his ski trip with a model. The emergency hardware purchase from a boutique electronics firm in Manhattan was for the exact price, down to the cent, of the Patek Philippe he debuted a week later. Betrayal wasn't a single act. It was a sprawling, meticulously constructed shadow company, siphoning off funds, code, and credit. The breaking point was that dinner, the one celebrating our new multi-million-dollar funding round. Xander stood to make the announcement. Yasmin, our lead engineer, sat to my left, beaming. 2 of our biggest investors were at the head of the table. He announced the deal, and then he announced my graceful transition out of the company. He offered me a buyout so insulting it was laughable, a fraction of what my shares were worth. It's just business, you have to understand, he said, his voice oozing with a practiced sincerity. Venture needed a singular vision, and frankly, you were holding it back with all your caution. This is a gift, really, a clean break. He was erasing me from our story in front of everyone who mattered. In that frozen moment, as every eye in that private dining room fixed on me, the cold, clear architecture of my plan began to build itself in my mind. The tiny, overlooked detail was right there on his wrist, glinting under the soft light, the watch I paid for. 6 weeks that followed were a silent war. Ms. Vance was my general. We gathered the evidence, piece by painstaking piece. There were the transaction records showing over $150,000 transferred from our company to Orion Innovations, laundered through vaguely worded invoices. There was the digital receipt for the watch, timestamped the same day as a fraudulent server upgrade purchase order. Sterling uncovered the IP logs. Xander had been accessing our proprietary source code from the guest network of our biggest competitor for months. He wasn't just stealing from me, he was selling our future. We had 42 incriminating text messages he'd sent to one of the new investors, promising to handle the dead weight and streamline the vision. The most ironic piece of leverage came from the competitor he was selling our code to. When Ms. Vance's office reached out, their CEO was furious. Thought Xander was a free agent looking for a new home, not an industrial spy. He agreed to provide a sworn affidavit. We had him cornered from every possible angle. As a decoy, Ms. Vance sent Xander a lowball counteroffer for my buyout. He rejected it with a smug 2-sentence email, feeling untouchable. He thought this was a negotiation. He had no idea it was a demolition. The trap was set for the annual Tech Vanguard Awards Gala. Our company was a finalist for Innovator of the Year. Xander, of course, was scheduled to accept. I found him near the bar, basking in the glow of his peers, a picture of triumph. I walked straight up to him. Xander, you seem to have misplaced some paperwork. He gave me a dismissive smirk. Whatever it is, send it to my lawyer. This is my night. I just held up my phone. On the screen was a PDF of a bank statement showing the first transfer to Orion Innovations. I saw his bravado flicker. His eyes darted around, checking who was watching. He leaned in, his voice a venomous whisper. What is this? You want to blackmail me now? It's not blackmail when it's evidence, I replied calmly. He started to bluff to threaten, but I cut him off. A $78,000 server upgrade, I believe. I tapped his watch with my finger, and the IP logs from Zenith Corp are particularly interesting. His face went from pale to ghostly. At that exact moment, a man in a crisp suit stepped between us. Mr. Xander Thorne, he asked, holding out a thick legal envelope. You've been served. As Xander stood there, paralyzed, the envelope in his hand, I saw the full, terrifying realization dawn in his eyes. You've ruined me, he choked out. No, I said, leaning in so only he could hear. You just finally paid your own invoice. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Within 24 hours, the tech blogs were ablaze with the story. Our award nomination was publicly rescinded for conduct unbecoming. New investors, furious at being duped, triggered the fraud clauses in their contracts, and our board was summarily dissolved. Ms. Vance was ruthless in court. A judge issued an injunction, freezing all of Xander's assets, including the sham company. The final judgment was for breach of fiduciary duty and corporate fraud. He had to pay back every cent he stole, plus my legal fees and punitive damages. He was forced to sell his condo, his car, and liquidate his entire portfolio to cover it. The last I saw of him, it was a photo a friend sent me months later. He was working behind the counter at a big box electronics store, wearing a bright blue polo shirt with a name tag. Patek Philippe was gone. My own renewal has been quiet. I restructured the company, brought on a new, trustworthy partner, and we secured a better round of funding with investors who valued integrity. My new office overlooks the park, and my mornings are peaceful. The caution he mocked turned out to be my greatest asset, the patience to observe, to document, to wait for the perfect moment. Last week, my new partner reviewed our quarterly projections. Your methodical approach is incredible, she said. It's the foundation of this whole enterprise. I just smiled. It wasn't just business. It was a venture that finally had a singular, honest vision.